Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. Chad Hyams here, Bob Stewart way over there. Bob, how are you doing today? You're already laughing. Forget it.
Well, we have a guest, and he made a really good old guy Jello joke that was. So I'm kind of excited to have him join because he's got me smiling just right out of the gates.
Yeah, usually it is of our audience. Audience, you've been with us long enough. Usually it's Pick on Bob Stewart. That's really the subtitle of the Win, Make, Give podcast, Pick on Bob Stewart. We've changed it from Health, Wealth, Leadership, and Legacy. Some of our guests lately have definitely been Team Chad as we've been picking on Bob. When you're not around, we absolutely pick on Bob. So
I never listen to those ones, by the way. Like if I don't show up here, you can best believe I didn't listen to it either, Chad.
Okay, well, that's good.
When I do show up, I put it on the car so my kids have to listen to it. My wife's like, what the hell is that? I'm like, don't worry about it. Just listen. But yeah, if I'm not here,
when you're not here, you don't care what was said. Got it. We appreciate that, Bob, knowing that Bob Stewart is not really a listener of the Win, Make, Give podcast. So now we're down one listener. So folks, we need another listener. Someone out there, go share this with a friend. This is going to be a great episode. We're going to have a fantastic time. Clearly, it seems that our guest, Mick, who we're going to bring on in a moment, has already started on Team Bob. We'll see if it stays that way.
Well, hold on. It was the first time. Chad, we've been doing this 4 years now. I can't remember a time when I've been here and you were 1 minute late.
Yes, that is true. I was coming off something, late. And just right. I was late. Bob had already filled Mick in. You
writing this down? It's April 23rd, and Chad was late. You got to remember this.
All right, folks, you just heard the date. Bob just put it out there. Someone text me or Facebook message me when you hear this episode. I want to know when Dave actually airs this. How far?
It might be a while. It might be a while. Sorry,
right?
I should have done that.
June or July.
Podcasting 101. Like you don't say what day it was out loud. Oh well, we'll be okay.
Bob Stewart did. All right, let's get to our guest today because, well, he's already made fun of me, so he's going to be a fun guy. We know he talks. He's got his own podcast. You'll hear about Mick Unplugged. And you might want to be checking it out before this podcast is even done. And we'll bring him onto the call right now and have some fun with him. So Mick Hunt, welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast.
Chad, Bob, thanks for having me on, man. And Chad, it's okay. We know you had to have your afternoon Jello, so we're good.
That's
right. Why he was late.
Red. If I'm having the Jello, it's red.
Right? Hey, my mother-in-law makes this ridiculous, like layered Jello that probably takes 6 hours to create, but it's like 3 different colors of Jello, but because you put them together, it looks like a rainbow of like 6 different colors. It's amazing. Wow. My kids love it. Anyway,
all right.
Shout out Diane Ortley for the rainbow Jello.
There you go. And I'm going to show my I don't know what the right word is here. My being.
That's what happens when you get old. You can't remember anything.
That's right. Can't even remember words. I'm going to say being unobservant. We had a dance in this community, right? We do that. And the theme was medical. So people were dressed as nurses, doctors, patients, whatever they wanted to. And one of the things that was being handed out when you showed up were Jello shots. They had made Jello shots because we like to drink too, right? So they had Jello shot, and it was the next morning. I actually went to Nita and said, I get it. Jello, medical. I got the connection. You always have the Jello in the hospital and all. And she was like, oh, I didn't even get that. So, losing brain cells down here, Bob Stewart.
Mick, he was right. They actually have Jello. He was eating Jello. Get out of here. Like,
hey,
okay.
Absolutely. All right,
Mick, yeah, here, I'll take it. We don't do bios here, Mick. So introduce yourself. Like we could read it off a page, but those are boring and weird. And who writes them about themselves? Do us a favor. Introduce yourself to the audience, my friend.
Yeah, so I am Mick Hunt. I reside in Greenville, South Carolina, but I am a UNC Tar Heel grad, so go Heels to all the fellow Tar Heel listeners out there. I always tell the world, man, I'm a man who made a promise to my mother, to my siblings, later to my kids, to my wife, to help impact their lives. And so I'm a man that lives a promise. You know, I own a leadership consulting business. I also have a podcast, one of the top podcasts in self-improvement in the world, one of the top overall podcasts in the world. And my whole mission is to just impact lives. And that's really who I am. That's what I'm about. The core of everything I do is about delivering on promises.
I love that. And one of the words you talked about when we had our 30-second who is Mick before we started, is you like to get into the because, right?
Yeah.
And I'm putting quotes around that. Our audience can't see us. Talk to me about that word, and then we can dive deeper into the because and how people can develop it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek, and many years ago he wrote the book Start with Why.
Yep.
And to me, it's very literal. You do start with your why, but it doesn't end there. Your journey, your path in life and business and whatever it is that you do, even in sports, is about your because, that true purpose of what you do, right? Like we've known each other for all of 10 minutes, right?
Yep.
I could guarantee your why are your kids or your spouse, but it's the because, it's the purpose, it's the impact that really separates that from what anyone else could do or what anyone else could have. And so I always tell people, yeah, start with your why, but be fueled, be ignited by your because that's something that people can't guess. That's something that only matters to you and that person or that thing that you're trying to impact.
That's
Nick,
fascinating.
what's your why in the short firm?
My why or my because?
Your why. I'm doing that on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. So my why are the same people. So it's my children, it's my mother, it's my siblings, it's my wife, and it's my tight circle of friends.
Okay.
That's my why.
And that's the answer I get from 95% of the people when I'll
Exactly.
ask them what their why is. They'll say, my family, right?
Yeah.
In some form or another. Now, what's your because? Take
Yeah.
us into that word more.
Yeah. So my because, and it started when I was 10 years old. When I was 10, I watched my mother, who's married to my father, was married to my father, go through hell every day. Like I tell people this all the time. You can be a married person, but still operate like a single parent. And my mom was the epitome of that. And I saw my mom go through physical, emotional, financial abuse every single day for the first 10 years of my life. And there was a morning that I woke up and I had tears running down my left cheek. But Bob and Chad, those tears were not mine. Those were the tears of my mom. And when I looked into her eyes, I didn't have to guess what happened. I knew, right? I knew it was one of those bad mornings. And I asked my mom to leave. I said, Mom, just leave. Take my baby sister. You guys leave and I'll deal with the ego. I'll deal with the monster, right? And her literal words to me, Chad, were, Mickey, I can't do that because I love you. And at that moment, because I love you, I knew that, yeah, I'm her why, but because she loves me, she's willing to go through hell every day. And so if my mom was willing to go through hell every day because of love, and her love of me and my sister was her because, that I had to do something different. And so that lived with me until Simon Sinek wrote Start with Why. And I said, doggone it, that's it. That because my mom loved me is what fueled me to everything that I've become in life. It wasn't my why. It was my because. And so that's the moment that it started. So my because was I promised my mom I was going to remove her from that and that one day she was going to see happiness again. I was 10. I knew that wasn't going to happen the next day, but every day of my life, it was fulfilling that promise. Then it became fulfilling a promise to my sister to show her what a husband, what a man should look like. And then when I had kids, it was giving them a legacy that they could be proud of, giving them a name that they could be proud of. That was my because, right? That's what I do. What I do with all of my friends. I talked about my circle being a part of my why. Everybody that's in my tight circle, I promise and commit that whenever they need me, I'm there. Right? I promise that whatever things they're going through, I'm right beside them. And that's my because. My because is always a promise that I give you. And everybody that knows me knows when I give you a promise, I always deliver. That's my because.
Mick, how does, and maybe it's obvious, but why is the because more powerful than the why? Like what is it in my brain that happens when I think about it that different way? Or because I have a similar it's funny. I'm sitting here right now, like kind of analyzing it. I think for a long time, I had a similar why. I wanted to make my mother proud. I came from a abusive household. I was raised by a single mom who raised 4 boys, and but in my brain, I'm just trying to wrap around like why is it more powerful to be because instead of like the who or the why?
Yeah. So let's take parent and children, right? Because that's always the easiest one for me to begin with. As a child, you didn't choose your parents, right? And most of the time, your parents didn't choose you, right? Like your parents can't say, I want Bob to be born on May 1st at 5 p.m. and I want Bob to grow up to be 6'5" and be a professional athlete and be a millionaire. Like we can't choose that path. So there has to be some type of bond, and that bond strengthens or that bond weakens over time. And to me, that bond is your because. Is your because getting stronger? Is your because getting weaker? So to me, that's why it's deeper than the why, because there are a lot of choices we typically just don't get to make. And so because you're compelled to that thing or that person, that's why it's deeper than the why.
That's interesting. So the why is the object, and the because is the bonds of that object.
Keeps it going. Exactly.
So, okay. Usually we do this to Bob. Let's do it to me. Okay. Coach me through finding my because. My daughter's 24. She lives across the country from me. She's on her own now. I mean, I'm always going to be dad, and I'm always going to be there for her. And I'll just be the guinea pig for our audience who's sitting out there going, well, I know my why. And I hate that question. I hate that question with a passion, right? Because so many people are like, well, how do I pick something that's like forever going to, it's like, okay, it doesn't need to be forever. It needs to be the thing that's now, right? It can change, yet help me figure out, how do I then go about figuring out my because, other than the obvious, mom said, I can't leave you because I love you, right? How do I figure out my because in business, maybe, because it's not going to be the same as it is, as easy it is in my personal life? Yeah.
So we'll go down 2 different paths, Chad. We'll start with the latter. You said your business, right?
Yep.
So here's the deal. It's 2025. I'm going to assume that this podcast will get released in 2025.
It won't be April 23rd, like I dropped earlier, Mick, but I think that's a fair assumption. Yeah.
Right. So in 2025, your employees, I mean, pretty much since the 1960s when employment contracts came into play, your employees don't necessarily have to go to work tomorrow, right? For you. So, Chad, why should your employees show up tomorrow, right? What's the thing about Chad? Forget the job, forget the benefits, forget the pay, because that can always change, right? I can promise you, Chad, I don't know who your employees are, but I could offer them $1 more than they're making right now, right? Right.
And that's good, because there aren't any other than my wife, because, right.
I would contend your coaching clients, right? Somebody else can offer them $1 cheaper.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody could offer monetarily something better, discount or pay rate, whatever that is. Right.
Correct.
I tell all of my consulting clients in leadership, you need to operate like you're on a 1-day contract with your team, not them for you, but you for them. And so if you're on a 1-day contract, how do they show up for you tomorrow? Right? What are the reasons that they're going to show up for you tomorrow? That's how you start your because. What are the things that I'm giving my team that they can't get elsewhere? What's the accountability that I need to have for them? That becomes my because as a leader, right? Because everybody usually likes to start with mission and vision statements. And I do this exercise. I speak across the country, right? And I'll go speak for a corporation. I just did this with a large credit card company that, maybe they're American, like to do things fast. The express
they go down the express line at the checkout. Yeah. Okay.
800 people in the room. and I asked all 800 people, what is the vision statement of your company? 3 people could answer it.
Right.
What's the mission statement and the top 3 core values? 2 hands went in the air. Why? Because it doesn't mean anything to anyone. So if Chad doesn't know his mission statement and vision statement, how in the world can your customers and prospects understand it either if you can't articulate it? And so to me, again, as a leader, I'm going to have a because statement. So because relationships matter to me, I'm going to deliver above and beyond. I can feel that, right? I don't need to hear our mission is to be the greatest credit card or credit lending company in the world. We foster accountability, credibility, and whatever ability you want to put after that, right? But every business, their mission or vision statement sounds something like that. We foster to be, we cater to the, nobody cares. But because Chad matters to me, Chad is always right. I can feel that.
Well, right? He knows that. He's figured that out very quickly here, Bob. Yeah. So if only you would catch on.
Because we're going to have Jell-O every day at 2:45.
Yes. Sounds good. Now he's giving away what time it was when I was having my Jell-O break, Bob. Okay, folks, I mean, that's great. And while Mick is talking about that, I'm sitting here, right? My head is saying, okay, because as the voice of reason, I'm going to be direct. I'm going to speak into them the things they need to hear, not necessarily the things they want to hear. And because of my loyalty to people around me, I'm going to assist them in the growth they are looking for. Okay, so it's a generic, and not generic, that's not the right word, but it is a draft of a because statement that now I can go back and I can clean up, I can put into the AI, I can sit there and put some better words in, things like that. Folks, go create a because statement.
And trust me, you're going to feel it, right? Because something, whatever, fill in the blank, we, as a community, fill in the blank. It works every time because your team can remember it, your customers can remember it, and it becomes a part of who you are, right?
I think, to me, I think about, man, you said you can feel it. It's really, for me anyway, it's really easy to to transition my why to a because statement personally, like related to my kids. And I can feel it. Right. Because I didn't have the father I always wanted growing up, I'm going to be an amazing dad to my kids. Right. I feel that right away.
That literally is one of my because statements. So if you were to ask my kids, and that's where I was going to go next with you, Chad, when you talk about the kids, right? So for my kids, because I didn't have the example, I have to be. Because if I'm no longer the example, my family generation is done. So I have to be that example for my kids, right? So Chad, for you, your daughter is an adult now, right?
Yep.
She can make her own decisions. This would never happen, but your daughter could say, Dad, thanks. I'm on my own. See you later.
Yep.
Right? But because I'm always the example is why I do what I do for my kids. So that's what I would say for you. You're always going to be the example, Chad. And again, I don't know you, but I know enough about your integrity to know that your daughter loves the crap out of you, right? Yes. I know that your family loves the crap out of you. And your because is probably to continue to be the example so that they feel that way every day, right?
And again, that fits into everything for us, right? I mean, when I make the choice, do I want to do this, do that? Do I want to post this on social media? Folks, if you have a because statement, it's going to become a filter, right? Yep. Because I want to be the example. Okay, there's certain things I'm never going to do so that my daughter doesn't see me do that. There's going to be certain things I'm never going to do. I don't want my wife to see that if I'm going to be the example, so I can't make those choices. It becomes very easy for me, it sounds, Mick, if I have a strong because statement, to be that filter that every decision gets made through.
Wholeheartedly, man. And, like my grandfather, who was the person that I thrive to be, right, told me, hey, you got a name. What you do with it is what you do with it. In the eye of the public, your name is your name. It's either going to resonate good or it's going to resonate bad. There's never a thing of in the middle with your name, right?
We're always going to leave a legacy. It's just a matter of what it is, right? There are people who have a legacy. I mean, you say Mother Teresa, okay, we know her legacy that comes with that. You say Hitler, you know the legacy that has been left with that. And we're all going to have it. It might not be at that level, but people are going to decide if it's good or bad.
Yeah. And another thing, one of my mentors is Les Brown, and he'd done some research, and he had this quote or this statement, and I forgot what entity it was, but there was a study that the average person, when they pass, 15 days is about as long as the public remembers their name. 15 days. Think about that. Think
Ouch.
about that. 15 days, right? And we all know.
Bob, I
people who
promise
have
to
passed.
remember you longer than that. Assuming my memory still works here.
There's special Jello for the memory.
There you
go. No, but think about it. Aside from like your immediate family,
Yep.
right? We all know people who have passed. All of us.
Sure.
We have to think about it to think about them, right? Like, let's just be honest, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, I remember, or oh yeah, that person. For most of us, the average span that we have in memory when we pass is 15 days.
I mean, this is so true. Like I had a family member, not close to me, but kind of, within the last week. And if I'm being bluntly honest, I didn't think about that person today until this conversation. Right? I didn't think about them yesterday. Yeah.
It's just naturally going to happen, right? Like now, your immediate family, your mom, brother, sister, aunts, cousins, grandparents, like, yes. But the average person, 15 days, and for all of us, for the three of us on this call, we're an average person to a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you want those 15 days to be? So that's where Les got to. Like, what do you want those 15 days? What do you want them to really know? What do you want them to really think? Deep.
Yeah, I don't usually not have anything to say. I'm actually sitting here thinking about that one while Bob asks whatever he's about to ask.
So let's go back to the because, and Chad was maybe getting to it or alluding to it, but how do I use that because statement to improve the human that I present to the world every day? How do I use it to tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, get better at being the leader in my business, being the dad that I want to be to my boys? How do I use it?
Yeah. So Bob, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to do something that from a guy's perspective, from a men's perspective, we don't do much. You got to journal, man. I literally write down every day before I go to bed a recap of my day. I'm not going to say I write a paragraph. I never do that, but it might be a couple of lines. What did I accomplish good? What completely sucked today that I messed up on? Because that's going to happen every day. We're human, right? And then what do I want to make sure I accomplish tomorrow? Right? I literally do that every single freaking day. Right? The first 30 days, it felt like a chore. And now I can't not ever do it because that's my personal accountability. A good day to me is a good day to me, right? We're all going to quantify good differently. The areas we want to improve on are going to be different for all of us, but it's that daily accountability. And so that's where my because comes in. It's okay, every day I'm committing what went good, right? And sometimes I'll write why it went good, right? Because it's me and it's my journal, right? What went bad, what completely sucked, what did I miss on? I'm going to be honest with myself, right? Hey, I didn't show my wife enough affection today, right? She might not feel that way, but I know I could have done better. I'm going to write that down. And then what do I need to improve on tomorrow? What's the one thing I need to make sure I do? I'm going to go back to what completely did I whiff on today. I'm going to make sure I don't do that tomorrow, right? And then that's how I start my day. I'm reminded, all right, I got to make sure I complete this today. And that thing becomes a part of my because for that day.
Chad, it reminds me, it's Chris Suarez, one of the, our co-founder in our big organization that we're a part of, Mick, he says, and I think this is a great kind of and it's simple, journaling, you're not telling us something and everybody's what? I've never heard of this before. We all heard this, right? But it's a simple way to make sure. His statement is, you can have a bad day. Some of us every once in a while even have a bad week, but you can't have a bad month, right? And like this daily accountability where you're checking in with yourself, like it's a hell of a lot easier to spot that you're in a rut and that you're having a bad day or week if you're like taking stock in it consistently, right?
Yeah.
Mick, give me those questions again, because you're right. All of our female listeners, I'm going to bet 90% of them journal, right? Of all of our male listeners, I'm going to bet 9% of them journal, maybe, right? What were those questions again that you use at the end of every day to ask yourself that everybody could just say, look, I don't want to journal, yet I could write down these 3 questions and give 3 quick answers to them that would help me just be a better person?
Yep. What's something good that happened today? Because even in the bad, there's always something good, right? And again, everybody can quantify good how they want to quantify good. I'm not here to tell you what good means, right? What was a complete miss, right? What was a complete miss? And then what's one thing I need to make sure I accomplish tomorrow? And me personally, I like to tie my I need to accomplish tomorrow somewhere with the what was a whiff? What did I miss today?
Yeah.
Right.
Most of the time, not every time. Sometimes,
sometimes there was, I completely whiffed on
I'm
that
going to go speak
podcast.
to I'm going to go speak to 2,500 people tomorrow.
Right.
I don't care what I miss on today. I need to make sure I'm ready to win that one tomorrow. So that's going to go on my. I got to make sure I do this tomorrow.
Right. And there might be a whiff that you can't do anything about anymore. You whiffed on the interview with the Win, Make, Give podcast or something. And okay, that's not going to be my tomorrow because, well, that's in the past. That's done. I got to move on. But generally, it's what did I whiff at? Like, I didn't spend enough time with my wife. I didn't give enough attention to my kids. I didn't make the calls I knew I really needed to do for my job. I didn't blank, blank, blank.
Yep, absolutely.
Chad, I think gosh, man, I think there's a lot of different ways you could, that's a great way. But when I think about, like Ben's always talking about what gives me energy, what takes energy away from me. Like if I was looking at this in my business environment, I might be saying, what was one thing today that gave me a bunch of energy? Write it down. What was one thing today that just sucked the energy out of me? What's one thing I want to get accomplished tomorrow? And I think when you're like daily's amazing. When you're consistently looking at these things, right? All of a sudden you get this perspective over a month where you're like, man, 15 times this month, I've written down that this thing is sucking the energy out of me. I got to stop doing this. I got to get somebody else to do it, Chad. I got to leverage it away. I got to push this off
Figure
to
out
somebody
how
on the
it
team.
becomes a positive because it has to be done if it's that sort of thing. Yeah, I think you're right, Bob. And for our audience out there who's not going to journal, no matter what, right? You're going to say, I'm not picking up the book because I don't want to write it down because I don't want it to be, okay. Use your AI, right? Go talk to Chat GPT and say, hey, ask me my 3 journal questions and get the answer just to get it out and have it track something somewhere. So many people are like, they think journaling means diary, right? Where we have the image of I really love Bob and blah, 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 right? And all that little stuff. I hope nobody ever finds this, right?
Yeah.
What?
I thought everybody used a quill pen for their, I got a little ink pen. I dip it in there. I'm like,
dip it in.
There
You're
you
doing
go.
big letters and all that.
Yeah.
Mick, how long have you been journaling? Like, I mean, and what do you do when you get to the end of a book? Do you just throw it away, or do you have a shelf back there behind you somewhere that's got?
I do see a shelf with a lot of books on it, by the way.
Yes.
So that's a great question. And I'll tell you, I don't necessarily keep when I get to the end of a notepad, I don't necessarily keep them all, but I do flip through them before I throw it away because I like to see, hey, almost what Bob was saying earlier. Is there a trend, right? Let me go back. A lot of times we get so focused on the bad, right? Because I think as humans, we like to protect ourselves first, right? But I'll go back and say, I want to appreciate the good. Right? I want to appreciate the good and remember some of the good because if I can create that energy, right, this train keeps going. But, Chad, you said something. A lot of people aren't going to do it. I force myself to, and here's why. Selfishly, I don't know any successful person that I've talked to that doesn't do some type of end of day, beginning of day recap. And, I told you all Les Brown's a mentor of mine. Yeah. Damon John from The Shark is a mentor of mine, personal mentor of mine. Robert Irvine, celebrity chef, personal mentor of mine. They all do that. And that's part of the reason that I started, because Damon said, hey, if you want to be great, if you want to be exceptional, you better track so you know what that looks like. In order to be exceptional, you need to know what non-exceptional looks like. And that simple statement, I was like, holy crap, I'm not going to know if I don't track. And I need to know, oh, this wasn't so good. Oh, this was kind of good. And so now you can start building those habits, but don't get lost into not finding something you can improve on.
I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I'm gonna be. I'm not a journaler, right? I'm one of those guys that
Yeah.
then has fought it for years, even though all of my mentors have said journal, right? And everybody you got, but lately I've been getting into way too many conversations with ChatGPT, right? We've had way like my wife's like, did you get a new friend? Who are you talking to all the time?
Right.
But I'm starting to think that, folks, what a great way to, because then it'll find the trends for me.
Right.
Right at the end of every month, I can say, okay, go back over all of our talks about my journal theme that we're calling it, and find me the trends. What were the goods that showed up the most? What were the goods that showed up the least? What was the right? And it'll do all that work for me and give me the results to review
Yeah.
every morning what I'm remembering from yesterday, or at the end of every day what it was from today. Folks, there's no excuse nowadays not to be doing something where you're tracking and holding yourself accountable, and then finding, as Bob had said, the trends that'll show up.
Yeah. And to journal just means to write it down. So again, we're not talking about writing a journal. We're saying journaling as the verb, right? Like just literally each of those questions should just be a sentence to start, right? You don't need to write a paragraph for each question. Like just today was good because I got 4 new clients. Perfect. Today I whiffed because I didn't show my wife enough love. Perfect. Tomorrow, I need to make sure the first thing I do is give my wife a hug and kiss and tell her I love her. That simple, takes less than 3 minutes, probably for most of us takes less than a minute. And then you move on.
It's the recognition, though. It's the recognition of it. It's even though you said it's 3 minutes, it's the focus on it, because like you said, those things today that I whiffed on, I've got a chance to impact them tomorrow, but only if I recognize that I whiffed on them and I put a little plan, a simple plan of writing down what I intend to do to make that thing different tomorrow. Like there's a massive amount of power in just the focus of it.
Yep.
We all think I could lay in bed at night and I could think of the things I want to, but there's something about writing it down and just bringing it to clarity.
Agree.
All right, Mick. He's the host of Mick Unplugged. If you're finding stuff and you're saying, I want more, go check out the podcast. Mick, is there a website they can go to? We're not done, folks. Don't go, oh, Chad's going into the wrap up. Is there a podcast or a website, though, if they want to check out more about Mick?
Yeah, MickHuntOfficial.com.
Oh, there you go, Bob. See, he had to fight with people who have the name. He had to add the official in his case. To make sure he could lock it up. So Mick
Hunt, a joke here because I could never get my name's Bob Stewart, which is a super common name. Like literally, I grew up in a town of like 800 people, and I'm a junior. So my dad was obviously a Robert Stewart. There was another guy that lived in that town named Robert Stewart. It's like 800 people in the town. So I haven't been able to get any. I'm not Twitter Bob Stewart. I'm not Facebook Bob Stewart. I don't own the website. Like I'm very bitter.
Mick, that's the 7,483rd time I've heard that story because he has to tell it to everybody. We all know the story, Bob Stewart. All right.
Hey, your podcast has hella reviews. Look at this. You got a new subscriber.
There you go. You got at least plus one. There you go. There's your win for the day. You earned one more subscriber to Mick Unplugged.
All right. And my whiff of the day will be if Chad doesn't do the same thing.
Well, I don't know. I was offended with the Jello comments. All right. Folks, you should check that out. We need the win today to be one more subscriber to the Win, Make, Give podcast. So who do you know you should share this with that's not already subscribed? Mick, before we get out of here, one last thought from you. I don't care if it's go back and take something we talked about and say, audience, I really want you to hear this. I don't care if it's something that's sitting on your heart that you just need to share with the audience that you don't even know that you were like, Chad, you never asked me about, and I want to give them this. Take us home with the last few moments here. What's the last thought from Mick?
Well, great question. Last thought from me, and it's something I just literally spoke about yesterday, and it resonated with a lot of people. We've all heard great people rise to the occasion. right? Great leaders rise to the occasion. Great athletes rise to the occasion. I'm going to challenge that. You never rise to the occasion. You rise to your level of preparation. So always be prepared, always be willing to do the work. So if I left everybody with that, it's do the work, be prepared, because then you can be in any situation you're supposed to be in.
No occasion to rise to when you're already prepared and ready for it to show up.
Yes, sir.
Great power words to take us out of here, Mick. We really appreciate you spending some time with us and the Win, Make, Give group. Folks, join us in Facebook. That's our Win, Make, Give group there, where we're always asking questions. Make sure, again, you're reviewing our podcast. So like Bob just did when he found Mick Unplugged, great reviews and ratings. We hope you've taken the time to do that for us as well. Until our next episode, as always, do good.